DPP close to issuing ruling in case involving Rastafarian woman who claims her hair was cut by the police. Two teachers against a 4% wage offer call into question the stewardship of the JTA. Ministry of Health says administering a second dose of COVID-19 vaccine is improving in Western region, which accounts for the majority of inoculations. And M16 rifle among 3 firearms seized by the security forces during operations in Salt Spring, St. James. Two teachers who are against the 4% wage and fringe benefits offer for the 2021-22 financial year are speaking out and have called into question the stewardship of the Jamaica Teachers Association JTA executive. Principal of Yalas High School, Mark Malava, and Principal of Russell Primary, Owen Speed, have labeled the offer as a bad deal. On Monday, 68% of JTA delegates voted to accept the 4% wage offer. The teachers will also get a book and a software allowance of $40,000 per year. Mr. Malava contends that the government has a history of reneging on certain negotiated items. He said he would have wanted a commitment on the start date for implementation of the reclassification program and its contents.
You cannot negotiate in good faith. If the government has said this, then we ought to accept the government. So what is it that you come April 1? What is going to happen come April 1? We ought not to have, in my opinion, and it's my humble opinion, we ought not to have accepted the deal unless there were certain commitments coming from the government.
Principal of Yalas High School, Mark Malava. Mr. Malava says the JTA was also seeking a commitment from the government for improvements in early childhood education, which was not given. Russell Primary Principal Owen Speed says the JTA delegates were cajoled into accepting the offer.
It's the first in the history of JTA that we have come back from the government with an improved offer, and I say improved guardedly. And when they come to us, they were telling us that it was a good offer. You don't do that. What you do is you put the facts on the table and let the people determine whether or not they are going to accept. Sanjay wanted to look at what transpired after the last time we rejected the offer. All that came on the table after that was $5,000 and a $40,000 one-off payment.
Russell Primary Principal Owen Speed. Mr. Malava and Mr. Speed were guests today on the morning agenda on Power 106. The JTA has given the government until the end of March to pay the increased salaries and benefits to its members. And Mr. Malava says the leadership of the JTA needs to have frank discussions with the members to ease the tension over the acceptance of the wage offer.
They improved the offer by $5,000, but one of the critical reasons why you initially rejected the offer still has not been resolved. But you accepted the offer. It just does not spell sense. I believe that the leadership needs to come to the wider membership of the JTA. I believe that they need to have very frank discussions with the wider membership, and they need to stand and give an account of themselves and how they have conducted the affairs of the JTA.
Principal of Yalas High School, Mark Malava. The opposition parliamentary says, or the parliamentary opposition that is, says it is in support of calls for the Ministry of Education to allow grade 6 students to sit their primary exit profile PEP ability tests in March instead of this month. In a statement this morning, opposition spokesperson, or the spokesperson for education, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, appealed for reasonableness and for the authorities not to ignore the impact of the disruption in teaching and learning over the past 2 years. Dr. Brown-Burke said she shares the concern of teachers and parents who are worried about the students' readiness. She has recommended that the students be given an extension to March when they can sit the ability assessment along with the performance tasks. Mrs. Brown-Burke says this would provide an extra month of learning and preparation. The Ministry of Health says the administering of second doses of COVID-19 vaccines has been improving, with the Western region accounting for the majority of inoculations. There was concern that thousands of persons were past their due date to receive a second dose. Director of Family Health Services in the Health Ministry, Dr. Melody Ennis, says 80% of persons in the Western region have so far received their second dose.
That's Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland. They have managed to get out all of their persons, or the majority of their persons, who received the first dose, and they are into the high 80s for second dose persons. We are not doing so well in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, St. Thomas, where we have maybe about 40,000 or so persons that are missing their second dose.
Director of Family Health Services in the Health Ministry, Dr. Melody Ennis, 548,567 second doses of a COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in Jamaica. Now, Jamaica's COVID-19 death toll is past 2,700 after the virus claimed 7 more lives. 6 of the deaths were in St. Catherine and 1 in Kingston. 2,706 people have now died from the virus. There has been a further decline in Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate. 87 cases were recorded yesterday from 792 samples. The positivity rate is 15.6%. An M16 rifle was among 3 firearms seized by the security forces during operations in Salt Spring, St. James this morning. A quantity of ammunition was also seized. The police say a member of the G-City gang, Tevin Stewart, was killed during the alleged confrontation. In a post on its Twitter account, the Jamaica Constabulary Force said the leader of the gang is currently before the court on a gun-related charge. Radio Jamaica News has been informed that investigators will make another attempt today to question the 25-year-old man accused of killing his parents in Watson Grove, St. Catherine last week. It's understood that detectives and the man's attorney have encountered challenges getting him to respond to questions. The man was arrested after his parents, Phyllis and Cecil Ramsey, were found with chop and stab wounds on Friday. 24-year-old Jermaine Brown, who escaped from the Denham Town police station 2 weeks ago, has been charged. It's reported that on January 24, Mr. Brown was taken into custody on allegations that he was involved in serious crimes in the Kingston West Police Division. However, while being processed, he ran out of the station in handcuffs. He was chased and held by officers from the station. Head of the Kingston West Police Division, Senior Superintendent Michael Phipps, told Radio Jamaica News that Mr. Brown was wanted for questioning in connection with several murders and shootings. The government says the 42 Jamaicans who are privately pursuing tertiary studies in Ukraine can leave the country via Germany without obtaining a visa amid growing fears of a Russian invasion. Some of the students have expressed unease with the situation in Ukraine and have been encouraged to make preparations in the event that they decide to leave the country. Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Robert Morgan, says some of the students were not registered with the Jamaican embassy in Germany. He says the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been trying to contact the students.
The good news is that they don't need a visa to transit through Germany to come to Jamaica. And I think if you're transiting and you're leaving within 24 hours, you do not need a visa. So there is a good opportunity for them to exit Ukraine when the need arises and reach Jamaica safely or reach another third country.
Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Robert Morgan, he was speaking at this morning's post-cabinet media briefing. Now, Mr. Morgan says the government has been working with Ukrainian authorities to ensure that the courses being pursued by the Jamaican students are not halted if they leave the country at a short notice.
Part of the challenge that the students may be having is not related to Jamaica's actions or inactions, but related to their status as students within the Ukraine. And we've been trying to work with our Ukrainian partners to see how we can come to some arrangement. So there have been tremendous efforts by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, to work with the students, create a situation where if they need to leave, they can leave unhindered, and also to try to see how we can work with the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian universities through our representatives to see what can be done as it relates to their studies if they have to leave.
Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Robert Morgan.